You can hide the pockets. Morgan Pressel, consistently ranked in the top 20 worldwide, said women should shop for their golf clothes in golf shops as well as department stores. I think the idea is to get your
Hello there,
basics,
and
your
welcome
golf
to the
clothing
tournament.
staples
Second
in the department
round about to
stores,
kick off here,
Pressel
so let's get
said.
down to the tee.
But you're going to want a special outfit or two. You need to go to a golf specialty shop for that, and there are plenty of them. That is where you will find shirts or shorts with special features. That's where you'll be able to put together a nice, eye-catching combination, top, bottom, and hat. Or a woman might find a nice golf dress. There are a lot more of them than ever, and they have pockets now, too. These are the kinds of things that make
They
difference
hit all the
to a woman,
fairways.
and it will be worth it to her. Most golf shops nowadays do a good job providing women with variety. We don't
Good
have
stuff.
to look like women
Okay, we're
wearing
sitting
men's
at
clothes in
around
smaller
110
sizes.
yards to the pin.
Taking this advice is probably a good idea because it's safe to say that you won't have anybody scripting your golf wear, which is probably a good thing. Not many of us want to look as if someone else picked out our clothes anyway. But you don't want to show up at the first tee looking like you just found your shirt rolled into a ball in your golf bag and decided to wear it anyway. And don't laugh. You've done that. I've seen you on the first tee. It might also be a good idea
Great
to have shorts
contact.
and
Nice
pants
swing.
lacking motor oil stains. I know you don't play golf for the fashion possibilities. You want to put together a run of birdies at the local Muni, not put together an ensemble for the Milan runway.
Looking at a 19-foot
But it isn't hard
putt
to
from
look
here.
presentable. It will make you feel better and, yes, probably even make you play better. Knowing you look the part is one less thing to worry about as you prepare for that first shot of the day. Remember, though, no button-down shirts if your neck is too short. Golf finance. Golf, people like to say, has always been a moneyed sport. It's more stereotypically true as a cultural touchstone than a reality. Just because a lot of rich people play golf, it doesn't mean all people who play golf are rich. The opposite is actually true. How do I know this? Well,
After the first hole,
the average
even
round of
par.
golf in America
And
costs a
500
little more
for
than
the tournament.
$20. If you exclude
Coming
the
off
East
a
Coast and the
par on the
highly
last one.
populated
Let's see
areas
what
of
happens
California,
here.
the average golf round is only $14. Wealthy people playing golf on exclusive golf courses represent a minor, almost tiny slice of the golfing public. Their game is not our game. Just as their annual $20,000 country club dues are not, thankfully, the same as the $30 we pay annually for a county resident card and its golf course discounts. Now, I'm not saying that people do not spend significant sums of money on the golf course. They do. It is just paid out in small increments. More than ever, the new golf culture is one of extra dollars thrown here and there. The economic future of golf as baby boomers continue to retire is probably tied to the all-new revenue streams golf courses can invent to pull more dollars from golfers' pockets. The possibilities are limitless. Fortunately, so is my maniacal golfer's imagination. I've been thinking about this ever since 2010,
Could be in the rough here.
when California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to impose a 10% state tax on the price of a round of golf. Taxing golfers who endlessly pursue a little white ball around a wide-open field seemed a bit like taxing dogs for chasing their tails. Schwarzenegger's proposal was roundly criticized and voted down, but I found it offensive for other reasons. It was a gross underestimation of how much money could be made off the common, overwhelmed golfer. Let me take you, for instance, to the first tee, where all you need is an attendant and a cash register. A mulligan, that will be $1. What? Another one? That's $2. Permission
All right, you're
to
on the green.
reposition
That
the
is
tee markers,
awesome
which
stuff.
are devilishly
See if we can
aiming
save
everyone
par
toward the
here.
woods,
That would be nice.
another $1. Completely overcome with first tee jitters, for $5 the assistant pro will hit your first shot for you. You get the idea. Charities sometimes do things like this at golf outings, but my golf tariffs would be a public service to the game. The goodwill tax could start as soon as you arrive at the course. Toll lanes could be built on the approach to the clubhouse, like those on highways. For an extra $10 when you are late,
Solid
you
stroke
get
on
the
that one.
express lane with a high-speed bag drop, where they shove
And
you in a
that'll
cart,
keep
change your
you at
shoes,
even par.
remove the
Nice.
15th club cluttering
And
your bag,
5 under
wipe
for
your
the
face with
tournament.
sunblock, and whisk you to the first hole.
And
If you're a
what is
frequent
this? Hole number
on-time
3.
customer, you get the $5 prepaid Easy Pass lane. This leads to a drive-through window on the side of the pro shop where you can buy golf balls, a glove, and tees. It funnels to an HOV lane leading to the practice range. The range itself could be layered with services. For $3, you get a bucket of balls and a place to hit off a rubber mat. For $5, you get to stand on a grass surface.
Well, I guess you
For
can't hit all the
$7,
fairways.
you get a spot in the no-talking section where no one may loudly and persistently explain the intricacies of some miracle swing tip recently learned on the
Very
golf channel.
nice.
For $10, you can warm up in the Business Golf CEO sector of the range, where someone younger will stand behind you as you hit balls and repeat various phrases such as, "Your swing has such rhythm and balance, it's so athletic." That's a beautiful practiced draw. Or fade. "Wow, you crushed that one. Have you been working out? I hope someday I can play golf like you." You see where this is going, right? I envision cash register kiosks all over the course. Let's say you hit your ball in deep rough off the fairway. For $5, a maintenance crew member could choose this exact moment to trim the grass in your area near your ball. He was going to mow there sooner or later anyway. For another $5, the worker could accidentally run over your opponent's ball with a tractor. In terms of gear, there is no
Okay, this is the
reason
fourth
golf
hole.
carts must be so minimally equipped. They ought to come with hotel minibar-type vending machines. Beyond alcohol, they could be stocked with antacids, $5, or anti-anxiety drugs, $20. Golf courses could start charging $1 for pencils with the scorecard. Better yet, they could charge $5 for pencils with erasers, the ultimate golf tool. There ought to be computer monitors hanging from the roofs of carts. For $10, you could search the internet for tips to fix things that are going wrong in your game. Playing a big match? For $25, you could arrange to have the computer in your opponent's golf cart play a stream of golf tip videos. That ought to ruin his or her game. It wouldn't harm any golf course to have an official club throwing station once every 9 holes. Say you've just dumped 3 balls in the pond fronting a tough, long par 5. Wouldn't you pay $5 at that moment to go to a designated club throwing area where an attendant could give you some old wooden driver to safely fling into an unoccupied field? There would be a line for that. For $20, they would let you deadlift
looks
an
like this
entire
may be in the
bag of
deep
clubs
stuff.
and heave it. On another
Hop,
hole,
skip, and a jump
golf
to the
courses
green from
could set
here.
up a Dr. Phil Wine Center. For a fee, you could sit down for 60 seconds with a psychologist and complain about how unfair golf is. "I swear the last time out I shot an 80 and never missed a fairway. I'm a good golfer. You've got to believe me. What's happening today is just ridiculous and not really me. Why? Why?" You would pay $5 for that. Your playing partners would pay $20 if it meant they didn't have to listen to you. There could also be an all-encompassing anti-cell phone charge of $10 at the start of
And
every
with
round.
that, you
This would pay
will
for
stay
trained
at
attack
even par.
dogs, positioned at every
And
hole,
5 under
to
for
charge
the
anyone
tournament.
pulling a cell phone from his or her
Okay, it's
pocket.
time to send this
It's
ball
not
on
as
its way.
hazardous as it sounds. The dogs would stop chasing you when you dropped the phone. Then they would bash the phone to pieces with their teeth. Who wouldn't pay to see that? Golf courses could have an illegal ball hole every 9 holes. This is where, for $5, you are allowed to pull out the rock-hard, illegitimate extra-distance ball that you bought on the internet and let it fly off the tee. Or you could use something like the Polara ball, a ball with an asymmetrical dimple pattern that reduces slices and hooks by 75%. The ball almost always flies straight. It is non-conforming to the USGA
Sweet.
rules. For $5,
Okay,
you get
we
to
are
pretend
about
you don't know what
245
USGA
yards
stands
out.
for. In fact, why not have a no rules of any kind hole every 9 holes? There could be a guy dressed in a blue blazer with a special rules official armband waiting at the tee, For $20 per foursome, your group would get to blindfold the rules official, spin him around 5 times, and shove him in the direction of a shallow pond. From there, you get to play the hole however you like. Want to spray cooking oil in the driver club face before you hit? Go ahead. The reduced friction can add 25% to a drive's distance. Want to throw the ball out of a deep bunker? Sure. Why not throw 2 balls to see which one gets closer?
Sweet.
Want to tee it up in the rough? Perfectly accepted. You don't want to get grass stains on your grooves. Everybody in the green automatically one-putts? Why not? It could have happened anyway. Just be polite. When you're done with the no-rules hole, have somebody take the cart back to the tee to help the rules official wring the pond water out of his socks and pat dry his blazer. For another $20, you would be allowed to slip the rule book out of his vest and tear out
29
page
feet from the hole.
77, which governs Rule 25-3. What to do if you hit a ball into the wrong putting green. Nobody, even rules officials, has memorized that rule. But that is cruel. The point is, there is plenty of money out there to be had, and as golf evolves in a society growing increasingly accustomed to making incremental automatic payments for things, the golf course as we know it will progress with it. I have come up with some inventive extremes in the last few moments, but in a serious way. Could golf ball dispensers on many tees be far away? Why hasn't somebody thought of that? Or a smartphone app for each golf course where the club pro describes the hole you are about to play and relates advice on
that'll
where to hit
keep
your tee
you
shot.
at even par. Nice.
Golf courses
And 500
already
for
allow
tournaments.
groups to text food and drink requests.
Okay, hole
What's
number
to stop
6.
them from allowing you to message the pro shop to request a new driver to demo for the rest of the round for $20, or a new putter for $10? Why should you suffer the rest of the day with a club that is ruining your round? It would be against the rules to change equipment like that. But in many a friendly foursome, would anyone really care? What price do you put on the collective morale? There is plenty of money available out there if golf courses do not undervalue the foibles, the vulnerabilities, the eccentricities of golfers. And I don't think golfers would notice these little add-on costs. We are already paying
On
for
the
a
green with
lifetime of
much
torment.
work to do. 36-footer here. Let's
The
see what we can do.
forsaken golf ball. The life and times of the modern lost golf ball. Once upon a time, golf balls were made of relatively soft materials, and the average golf ball, after being struck a few hundred times, would almost split in half, or begin to unravel. If you found a lost golf ball in the woods, and it had been there more than a couple of months, it would be nearly decomposed. The balls would dissolve in time in water, and sometimes the cover of the ball would fly off on contact. It was as if it imploded.
Nicely done with
If your
the
golf ball
long
landed on a
putt.
cart path,
Okay,
it would get a
1
dent
under
that
for the
turned the
round.
sphere into a
And 6
strange
under
glow
for the
with a
tournament.
small flat side. Try hitting that ball straight.
Let's put this ball down in the fairway.
The modern golf ball is nothing like golf balls made even 15 years ago. Today's golf balls are made of different, almost indestructible polymers that do not rot away. They are hard to cut. They are resistant to water, even if seemingly attracted to it. If they strike a cart path, they suffer no more than a little scratch. They fly farther and straighter and keep their color longer. Modern golf balls last forever. That's a good thing. Unless you
swing.
lose one. But you're not going to lose one, are you? The impact and destiny of the modern but lost golf ball has almost become a celebrity cause in contemporary golf.
And from here,
Not just
we're
for
right around
where they go,
170 yards
and
out.
they go everywhere, but for the fact that they keep coming back. The lost and newly recycled golf ball is a global, lucrative business and a fascinating, if peculiar, window into golf as it is played. Who cares about a lost golf ball? You would be surprised. Lost golf balls are easily ignored until you realize just how many of them there are. For instance, in a 2010 sonar search
heading
for
towards
the Loch
the
Ness
beach
Monster,
here. Not the good
scientists with a submersible device instead discovered more than 100,000 golf balls. Who knew the Loch Ness Monster even played golf? In a logical conclusion, Scottish officials surmised that golfers along Loch Ness had been using its 21 square miles as an oversized driving range. As a local lawmaker said, golf balls are humanity's litter in the most inaccessible locations. No one knows precisely how many golf balls are lost each year worldwide, though the total in the United States is estimated at 300 million. The worldwide estimate exceeds 1 billion annually. Hundreds of thousands of
And
golf
that'll
balls
keep you
are
at 1
lost
under
or
for the
abandoned
round,
every day in
and
lakes,
6 under for
ponds,
the tournament.
forests, wetlands, deserts,
All right,
backyards,
let's let her rip.
gardens, parking lots, cemeteries, on rooftops, and at the bottom of woodchuck holes. But in the last few years, the simple, seemingly inconsequential lost golf ball has stumbled upon a new international renown and import. Some people worry about the ecological impact, just as golf yearns to be viewed as more green. And the arts have discovered the lost golf ball too. Examining the fate and destiny of the wayward golf shot has been the subject of not one, but 2 glossy coffee table
I think you
books.
got all of that one.
The lost golf ball, in its own way, has become a fatalistic metaphor, not just for golf, but perhaps for life. We
And
are
from
all
here,
lost,
we're about 130
waiting to be
yards
found.
out.
For every lost ball, there was a forlorn search, perfunctory or thorough. John Updike wrote in the foreword to Lost Balls, a 2005 golf book. These questing ghosts haunt the course, hovering at the juncture of their interrupted game. Found it, one wants to cry out in triumph, though the loser has been decades in his grave.
Solid swing.
There has been no recognized study of what has happened or will happen to the millions, if not billions, of lost golf balls dotting the earth in little white, orange, and pink
Or the
orbs.
birdie here.
There is no accepted wisdom on how long it takes a modern golf ball to decompose in soil or waterways, according to interviews I've done with more than a dozen golf industry and environmental researchers. The informed guess is that most balls begin to break down somewhere between 50 and 500 years. Whether the great multitude of lost golf balls decaying under logs or slowly dissolving at the bottom of swampy estuaries pose an environmental hazard is also apparently undetermined. Most scientists seem to think it is unlikely. Robert Weiss, a professor of polymer engineering at the University of Akron, who has conducted extensive research on multi-part products like golf balls,
Sitting
said
at
that the zinc
2
in
under
a
for the
golf
round.
ball is present
And
as
7
an
under for the
iron
tournament.
strongly bound to the compound.
Nice solid
It would
birdie
not
on that
be
last
displaced
hole.
by
We
water
got another
or
birdie in
much
the works
anything
here.
else, besides a sophisticated saw in a laboratory. Weiss conceded that an acid could displace the zinc in the ball, but doubted that any waterway is acidic enough to do so. Weiss did not want to dismiss environmental concerns, but he made what he called worst-case scenario calculations involving 1 million golf balls in Loch Ness that lost all of their zinc. He estimated that dumping 5 bottles,
You can't hit
10
all the fairways.
pounds, of antiseptic mouthwash would deposit more zinc ions into Loch Ness than 1 million
Pretty
golf balls.
deep rough here. I'm
Now,
not going to sugarcoat
If
it.
you are really worried about ruining the planet by playing golf, there are biodegradable, water-soluble golf balls available. Though they are primarily one-use balls bought by cruise ship operators so that guests can practice their swings next to the Lido deck. There are golf balls that are 100% recyclable and made from renewable material. They work just fine, but don't fly as far or as straight, and they are hard to get. You won't find them at a neighborhood Target or the local pro shop. A couple of years ago, the University of Maine started making biodegradable golf balls out of lobster shells. I'm not kidding. And you can play with them too. Personally, I would
Nice.
be suspicious of a lobster shell golf ball if I were playing an ocean course. What are the realistic chances of that ball clearing an ocean chasm on a par 3?
Okay,
Wouldn't
back
the
on the
lure of
fairway.
the salty
This
sea
is a
be
good
too
thing.
much for the lobster ball? At the same time, I bet if you had some drawn butter in your golf cart and made sure the lobster balls could see it, you could get those balls to do whatever you asked. or else. With so many lost balls lying somewhere, and with the cost of a new golf ball ranging from 75 cents to $4, it didn't take entrepreneurs long to realize the worth of this buried or displaced treasure. There are
Very
thousands
solid
of
round
lost
after
golf
9,
ball
looking
retrieval
fantastic.
businesses in America.
And 7
They
under
are
for
hard
the
at work
tournament.
wherever golfers are spraying their
Coming
shots
off a
hither
par
and
on the
yon.
last one. Let's see what
It
happens
is a
here.
vast industry, valued at about $200 million annually. Some of these golf ball bounty hunters are teenagers or grammar school-age kids who wade into ponds after school to find and resell balls at 50 cents apiece. It can be scary work. I once hung out with two friends, Jimmy Lance and Greg Seaweck, who went into business together collecting golf balls 7 days a week on a course in southern Florida. Diving into waterways, they routinely wrestled with alligators, pushed aside underwater snakes and eels, and lost fingertips to snapping turtles in search of golf balls. In 8 hours, they might find 10,000 golf balls, even as they sparred with the hidden wildlife and climbed over submerged golf carts and ditched cars, all the while dodging errant golf shots, not to mention thrown golf clubs. Each diver lagged a satchel laden with up to 1,000 balls, an air tank, and another 30 pounds of scuba gear that kept them weighted to the pond floor. Why do this? It's part of the new economic model for golf. Golf balls are white gold. Lance and Seaweck made more than $100,000 a year reselling their found, lost
All right,
golf
14
balls.
feet to the hole.
People like to tell me I don't have a real job. Seaweck, who was 36 at the time, told me. Then I tell them how much I make, and their jaws drop. Lance and Seaweck paid the golf course a straight fee to work in the water hazards. Before they arrived, they would examine a course map like mining prospectors. They headed to any pond positioned to catch a sliced shot. They often found balls lined up, row after row. The first time I did it, I couldn't believe how many golf balls were just sitting there all lined up, said Lance.
That'll work.
It was
for
like
par.
playing Pac-Man. You suck up all those little white
And
dots.
that'll keep you at 2 under for the round.
They also picked up
And
hundreds
7
of
under
golf
for the
clubs,
tournament.
entire bags of clubs, and
Here we
watches
go.
that had flown
Let's
off
pop this in the
players'
fairway.
wrists in mid-swing. In some places, abandoned cars were common too. Down in Miami, Lance said, "The water is like a parking lot down there." Frequently, the drivers were called by club pros or people who lived on golf courses, asking if they could look for something specific. A guy called me and said his golf bag was in the pond behind his house, Lance said. I asked him how a whole bag got in there, and he said, "Well, me and the wife were arguing." Then there's always the guys who want us
Now
to
that
look
was a
for their
swing.
watches. They always say they lost a Rolex, but we've never found one. What we find is a Timex or a Seiko. One of the days I was with Lance and
Okay,
Seaweck,
we have
they came
about
upon a 4-foot alligator
130
at a
yards, I'd
course in
say,
Boca
to get
Raton.
to the pin.
The alligator surfaced, seeming to play at the water's edge with the bubbles that the divers' air tanks had produced. But when Lance and Seaweck, heads down as they scooped up balls, got closer to the alligator, the animal swam in the other direction. "He's a little guy and a little afraid," Seaweck said, laughing. "They get a lot more frisky in mating season." Later that day, Lance and Seaweck took a break and struck up a conversation with a passing foursome. When it came time to dive back into the pond, Seaweck handed the golfers 8 ultra-white balls from his
Nice
satchel.
little approach shot.
When one of the
Okay,
group
we're putting
remarked that
from
giving
around
away the harvest
15
was
feet
no
out.
way to run a business, Lance said, "Well, what are you going to do with those balls, fellas?" "We'll start hitting them," the golfer said. Lance answered, "Then they'll be back. We'll get them next week." I remember at one point I told them it seemed like hard, dangerous work. "You're right," Seaweck said. "Let's be serious. Not everybody looks at a murky, slimy, alligator-infested pond filled with golf course pesticide and fertilizer runoff and sees a business opportunity. But we did. It's not necessarily something you can do for long. It's not a career.
Okay, so that's going to
I
keep you
called
at
Seaway
2 under for the
18
round.
months later.
And
Hey,
7
always
under
stay in
for
touch
the
with a good
tournament.
resource for quality used balls.
Okay, here
And
we
he
go.
had left the golf ball retrieval business. I had to get out of those dark ponds, he said. At the other end of the spectrum is someone like Gary Shinefield, whose Toronto area company sells more than 20 million reclaimed golf balls a year. People don't like to pay $40 a dozen for golf balls. Shinefield, who has partnerships with 2,200 golf courses to recover lost balls, said. Instead, they come to us on the internet for that ball at $20
I think you're
a
heading
dozen.
into the cabbage on this
They
one.
are pre-owned golf balls. They probably bought a pre-owned BMW,
Pretty
too.
deep stuff here.
Also driving
give it a good
Shinefield's
hack.
profits
Let's
are
put it in the
sales
right
to
direction.
India, Vietnam, and much of Southeast Asia. Those countries are really taking to golf, and they want value. But they also want brand names, Shinefield said. We ship them anywhere, and get plenty more ready. Like my Florida diving buddies, he understood this new piece of golf's evolving economy. We don't sell balls, he said. We rent them. Charles Lindsay wrote the book, Lost Balls, and his second volume in 2010, more or less on the same subject, was Bad Lies. Golf is a shared experience, and so is losing a ball, Lindsay told me. One of the great universal things about the game is that even the world's best players lose golf balls. Every lost golf ball was once a shot of hope and
We're out of the
aspiration
dirty stuff
that then
into the
became
short
a
stuff
plop
here. Let's,
in the water.
let's regroup. I'd say
Lindsay,
around
who has
105
become
yards
something of an
or
expert
so
in
to
lost
the pin
golf
here.
balls, said he laughed when he read the reports of 100,000 golf balls in Loch Ness. Having wandered upon hundreds of golf balls in difficult-to-reach places around the world, he did not seem surprised or worried. I doubt they would have bothered the Loch Ness Monster, he said. What would you expect? It's Scotland. Now, when it comes to lost balls, there is considerable myth and many an argument about whether a lost golf ball that is found and put back in play will perform as well as a new one. There is no definitive answer, other than to say that if it has been lost or submerged in water for more than a year, it will not perform the same. How do you know how long it has been lost? Used golf balls don't come stamped with a purchase date, but it's safe to say that if it is yellowed or the white covering is faded, it was lost for quite a while. Ball retrieval entrepreneurs use solutions that whiten and clean up a golf ball, and they are extremely effective. If they can't get it to look decent, it's not going to play decently, that's for sure. Dean Snell, Senior Director of Research and Development at TaylorMade Golf, said that a ball submerged in a pond for a few weeks would absorb enough water to lose up to 5 miles an hour of velocity and would fly a shorter distance. It might also lose some of its spin and launch performance. Shinefield, who says his balls are in the water for no more than 2 or 3 weeks, lists independent testing results on the company website. For average golfers and the better-than-average golfers, he said, there is little difference.
Holy.
About 5 years ago, Golf Digest magazine did its own testing and discovered that top-shelf used balls flew about 6 yards shorter than new ones of the same model when struck with a driver attached to a robot, swinging identically every time. Of course, if we could all swing like that, we could break 80 with a gutta percha. Sometimes I hear people say that old golf balls, even if they have never been taken out of the box, will not perform as well simply because they are, well, old. Can time ruin a ball's worth? No. John Spitzer, the United States Golf Association's Assistant Technical Director, told me. We've kept them 5 years and tested them, and they are the same as new. But that's if the balls are stored in a relatively dry place in normal temperatures. Don't buy 24 golf balls and leave them in the trunk of your car all summer waiting to use them.
I would say we're about 240,
Don't leave them even for a
240 yards
week
from the
if you
pin
can help
here.
it. Excessively high temperatures will harm the performance of a golf ball, Spitzer said. Bring them in the house. Put them in the den. Perhaps if you open the box and perch them on a table where they can watch professional golf on television, They will yearn to perform like the balls seen soaring through the sky on the PGA Tour. I have heard of golfers doing stranger things to shave a few strokes off their handicap. In my house, of course, that wouldn't work. My golf balls would be
Great
terrorized
contact.
by
Nice
all
swing.
the yelling at the TV during golf broadcasts. Damn fantasy golf team. Chapter 12. Shanks, Choking, and Other Tales of the Dark Side. What to do and how to think when everything is going wrong. I'm not saying my golf game went bad, but if I grew tomatoes, they'd come up sliced. Miller Barber, winner of 40 pro tournaments. About 10 years ago, I played golf at one of those select, fashionable Rocky Mountain resort courses west of Denver. It was a semi-private club that let tourists on the course on weekdays to raise revenue for a membership that took over on the weekend. Stealing a day in the midst of a business trip / vacation, I teed off in the early afternoon. It wasn't busy on the course, and I breezed through the front nine, which was carved out of an old horse ranch on a valley floor. The second nine, however, meandered through the overlooking hills, which put in play several steep elevation changes. Mountain golf is a treasured experience. The air is crisp. There is always a lot of wildlife around, and the views from the elevated tees are especially majestic and sweeping. Plus, the ball always seems to fly farther. More on that later. Playing by myself, I was also posting an unusually good score. Most shots
3
were
under for the
straight and
round,
true.
and
The
8
putts
under
were
for the
rolling in.
tournament.
Sometimes being alone makes golf easier because you hit your shots
Okay,
at
it's time
whatever
to send
pace
this
suits
ball
you.
on its way.
It's also easy to play fast. A single playing reasonably well moves along at a good clip. I looked at my watch and realized I would probably be done well before 6 o'clock p.m. when I had told my wife to pick me up at the club. She was off hiking and exploring the area. On the 15th tee, I came upon 2 guys who had been playing in front of me. I had tried to avoid rushing them from behind, but now, as I drove my cart to the elevated tee, I arrived before they had teed off on the hole. They smiled and encouraged me to play
Well, I
through.
guess you can't hit all the fairways.
I offered to play with them. "No, we've been watching you play. You're too good for us," one of them said. "We're just kind of hacking it around. You go ahead."
So, we have about 165 yards to go still.
A golfer's mind can come up with all kinds of weird rationalizations in the course of a round. If you are playing well, the transformation in your brain goes something like this. You actually believe you are a good golfer. You believe you have the game all figured out. And so, playing on my newfound Rocky Mountain golf high, I teed the ball up on the 15th hole to show these guys some more of my golf wizardry. Because, you know, as they said, I was probably too good for them. I never saw where my first tee shot came down. It simply disappeared high into the pine trees to the right of the fairway.
Could be in the rough here.
I did see where my second tee shot came down. It was in the pond about 170 yards away, on an adjacent hole far to my left. At times like these, I did what all elite golfers do. "I'm just going to get out of your way, guys," I said, as I scooted down the fairway without hitting another shot. I hastily dropped a ball in the middle of the fairway and sculled that shot. It barely got off the ground. Then I did the same thing on the next shot. After a couple of chips toward the green, one too short, one too far, I grabbed my ball and dashed off the green as the 2 guys behind me watched from the fairway.
All right, 12-footer here.
On the next hole, the 16th, I tried clearing my head, thinking the previous hole was just a crazy, bad accident brought on by the pressure of playing through strangers. But alas, poof! The good golf spell had been broken, just like that. I couldn't do anything right. I lost another 2 shots off the tee, dribbled my approach, and 3-putted. All with those 2 guys watching me. With my confidence shot and my equilibrium gone astray, the 17th hole was more of the same, and it was getting more embarrassing because my audience was 2 guys. who once thought I was good. But on the 18th hole, a majestic straightaway par 4 that played back toward an enormous stone clubhouse, I finally hit a good drive down the middle.
Up to even
that
par.
tee shot left
And
me
500
about
for the
160 yards to a big green,
All right, let's haul
which was
off
below a
and
broad
just
slate patio in
smash
front
this
of the
next drive.
sprawling clubhouse. When I got to my ball, I could see that there were people on the patio, standing and sitting around large glass tables positioned beneath outsized, festively colored umbrellas. I could hear music playing and the babble of conversation and laughter. It was a Friday evening. A cocktail party to welcome another beautiful summer weekend was in full swing. There was a pond in front of the green, and given the way I had been playing for the last hour, I was worried about it. I turned to see that those two guys were now on the elevated 18th tee, looking down,
I'd say around
waiting to see what
105
I did.
yards or so to the pin
My
here.
head was swimming. The swing I thought I had been using earlier in the day had produced nothing but appalling shots for 3 straight holes. Just now, hitting off the 18th tee, I had thought nothing at all. It was entirely hit and hope. But now what? Think about my shoulder turn? My hip drive? Keep the hands back? Keep the club face open
looks
or closed?
like this may
or
be
maybe
into deep
close
stuff.
my eyes? Times like these are the darkest, loneliest feeling in sport. You are a clueless basket case, and you know it. But you have to hit another shot. People are waiting. Even though you almost can't feel your shoes walk across the grass, you must pick a club and swing. I took a 6-iron, maybe a little too much club for the distance, but I wanted nothing to do with the pond in front. Try to stay smooth and try to relax, I said under my breath. What could go wrong? It's just a game of golf. When I swung, I knew instantly that I hit it a little thin. This was more of a line drive
And with
than the
that,
soft, high-flying
you
shot I
will
envisioned.
stay at even par.
In the air, the
And
ball was
500
straight,
for the
but kept
tournament.
going and going,
Coming
almost
off a
seeming
par
to
on the
gain
last one.
speed
Let's
as
see
it
what happens
soared
here.
over the green. 4! I yelped, knowing it was both a late warning and a futile one. The ball struck the rigid slate of the patio on the fly, first bouncing across one glass table, then ricocheting off an umbrella. It bounced all the way to the stone clubhouse wall, from which it rebounded back onto the patio, where it crashed into a waitress stand and started rattling around from table to table for 5 or 6 seconds. Standing in the fairway, I heard the sound
You
of
can't hit all the
breaking
fairways.
glass. I saw startled people stumble and lurch, knocking over tables that tumbled umbrellas. A waitress dropped her tray of drinks. One woman fell over backward in her chair. There was a shriek. Then it became very quiet, as every eye on the patio turned back toward the fairway, where a lone figure stood, holding a 6-iron. I raced to the scene behind the green, where waiters were picking up a well-dressed, gray-haired woman from the patio and putting her back in her seat. "Are you all right, Mrs. Patterson?" they said. "Can I get you anything, Mrs. Patterson? Do you want us to find your husband, Mrs. Patterson?" I was apologizing to everyone with every step. Men, women, waiters and waitresses. No one, somehow, appeared hurt or in any real distress, including Mrs. Patterson, who was busy dabbing at what looked like a cocktail sauce stain on her
All right,
white
we're in the
skirt.
first cut here. Let's chip
Waiters
this bad
were
boy on the
speedily
green.
cleaning up the broken glass from the spilled waitress tray. Drinks were being refilled. Umbrellas and tables were righted, with nothing broken. I kept scurrying around the area to see if I could help, saying, "I'm sorry," as I went, and wondering if there was anything I could do. The club members, eager to get on with their weekend, were giving me a look that said, "Why don't you go away now?" Then 2 guys in golf attire approached me. "So, what did you hit there?" 6-iron. "Way too much club," one of them answered. "Definitely," the other said. "Are you crazy?" I retreated from the scene, grabbed my clubs, and left them at the bag drop out by the
And that'll
clubhouse front
keep
door.
you at even
Since
par.
my wife wasn't
Nice.
due for 45 minutes,
And 5
I
under
went
for
into
the
the
tournament.
empty bar on the other side
Guys,
of the
send
building.
this ball away.
The bartender had just given me a beer when suddenly one of the kitchen staff burst in. "Did you hear what happened on the patio?" he said to the bartender, who could not see the patio from his station. "Some idiot flew the 18th green, and his ball almost destroyed the whole member guest party on the patio," the kitchen worker said. "I missed it, but I heard it was amazing. Mrs. Patterson fell out of her chair." "The club president's wife?" "Yeah, a plate of shrimp cocktail went flying all over her." "No kidding. She must have killed the guy," the bartender said. "She probably would have. I think she was too startled," the
Solid
kitchen worker
swing.
said, then went back inside. For the next 5 minutes, one by one, more kitchen help came into the bar to gossip about the near carnage on the patio. "Somebody told me Mrs. Patterson's skirt flew over her head," one said. "I heard she had a shrimp stuck behind her ear," said another. I stared into my beer and moved to the end of the bar. I glanced at my watch. 30 minutes until my wife would arrive. The hubbub seemed to be settling down when in walked the two guys who had been playing behind me. "Hey," one said, "that was some shot you hit over the 18th green. Even from the tee we could see the ball bouncing everywhere. It looked like you knocked half the tables over." "And
This one's
some
for
people,
birdie.
too," the other guy added. The bartender rushed over to me, his eyes widening. "That was you?" he asked. And when I meekly nodded, he ran for the kitchen. For the next 10 minutes, the entire kitchen workforce, along with a couple of pro shop employees, were ushered forward by the bartender, who pointed at me in astonishment. "This is the guy who almost killed Mrs. Patterson." Some smiled. Some shook their heads as if I was to be pitied, and some shook my hand. Every one of them asked, "What did you hit there?" "6 iron." "What? Are you crazy?" they said. Finally, the guys behind me turned and had another question. "You know, you were playing so
Perfect.
well. What happened?" I finished my
1
beer
under
and
for the
stood
round.
up. Heading
And
for
6
the
under
door,
for the
I said,
tournament.
"Golf happened. I couldn't do anything wrong, then I couldn't do
Okay, let's
anything
pop
right.
this
What
into the
happened? I was
fairway.
playing golf, that's what happened." I went outside near the front portico and waited the final 5 minutes for my wife. When she pulled up in the car, she jumped out to help me put my clubs in the trunk. "Hey, want to go in for a drink?" she said. "I heard they have a lovely patio in back overlooking the 18th hole." Has this ever happened to you? Not the almost killing the club president's wife part, but the part where you have a sudden, complete, and total loss of golf ability? Of course it has. The dark side of golf descends on everyone from time to time in multiple forms. It is the golfer's nightmare.
No good.
Things can and will go seriously wrong. Without warning. What to do? First, golfers should try to accept the perils of golf as a badge of honor. It is another admission ticket to the golfing tribe. You enter, you have your ticket punched, feeling punched in the stomach at the same time, and you are welcomed in bittersweet melancholy. So don't fight it. Bad, annoying golf may be worrisome and unsettling, like a bad cold, but it must be endured. Much like a bad cold.
Nice.
Keeping with that analogy, bad golf infects almost everyone. In the very first chapter, I presented some definitions of pretend golfers.
Well, you got an ugly
Well,
lie, but we're pretty
here's
close to the
another
green. Let's
definition
keep
of
going
the
here.
species. Pretend golfers believe when things are going well that they have golf figured out and that things will never again spiral out of control. Real golfers know that you never own a good, competent golf game. You only lease it. You can have a long and happy stay in the world of good golf. You might even think you have achieved a certain ownership status. But eventually, the lease will expire. You will be aimlessly wandering in a golf abyss, abandoned by your clubs, your swing, your confidence, and your friends. Sounds like fun,
Okay,
huh?
let's see what you can do with his 8-footer.
Cheer up. Be reassured that since the 1500s, golfers have been bothered by a sudden incapacity to do anything right. Shots that once sailed true and straight unexpectedly trail off in odd directions to distant, heretofore unseen places. A sliced shot follows a hooked shot. You top a shot, instantly recall a tip about staying more on your toes to prevent thin contact, then on your next shot, gouge a horribly fat divot that sends the ball a total of 20 yards.
Well done.
You
All
hit
right,
an
great
approach
hanging
shot
out today. We'll
that
see you next
misses the
time.
green, but luckily stops just short.